Hello everybody, this is Lara with your Monday to Friday update for Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP and Solana. I'm going to start with Ethereum today, let's mix it up just a little bit, and I'm going to first up answer a question someone asked me in comments, and thanks for your questions because it gives me ideas of things to cover, which makes these videos a little bit less boring and repetitive as the market is rather quiet. He asked me, when do I use stochastics? When do I use RSI? How do I decide which of those ones to use at which time? And I'm going to go through that today. Ethereum is moving higher. We don't have volume data. This session is incomplete, but we do have obviously so far an increase in range. Looks like we're going to see further upward movement. Watch how price behaves if it gets to resistance at 3,200. If we get a break above that, would be fairly bullish. Next resistance above 3,680. I do still think that the low for Ethereum of 1st of May is quite likely to remain intact. Volume looks different. I've moved from crypto compare data to bar chart data for my cryptocurrency analysis. The most recent strongest sessions still with this data are on downward sessions, so for the short term the volume profile is bearish. ADX is still within a narrow range. It's at support at the last completed session, and the support line now has 4 or 5 tests, so if it gets a break below that, that would be a reasonable bearish signal. Okay, moving to ADX, and this is how I decide whether I'm going to use RSI, money flow or stochastics. ADX is declining. It's telling us there's no clear trend. I went over how to use ADX in yesterday's video, and I break my videos into chapters, so if you want to have that lesson on ADX, click through to yesterday's video and have a look at that. When ADX tells us there's no clear trend, I use a model of stochastics plus support and resistance on price. There's no clear trend at this stage, so I'm going to expect that stochastics is going to move in a swing and price is going to move in a swing. When ADX has a positive slope, it tells us that the market is trending. When the market is trending, I do not use stochastics. I use ADX plus RSI and money flow. ADX tells us how extreme the trend gets, and RSI and money flow tells us how overbought and oversold conditions get. When conditions get very extreme with ADX and overbought or oversold with money flow and or RSI, and then we see divergence, then you can expect a trend change. At the previous end of the previous upward swing, ADX reached over 65. The previous upward trend was very extreme. RSI reached fairly deeply overbought but did not exhibit bearish divergence. It often doesn't for cryptocurrencies because they do tend to end their movements with the most strength. And so because there's the most strength right at the end, there'll often not be divergence, and that's okay. That's normal for a cryptocurrency. Money flow reached reasonably overbought, and that did not exhibit divergence either. And so the previous upward trend reached very extreme with ADX, deeply overbought with RSI and money flow, and that tells us to be aware that there may be an upcoming trend change. Now the problem here though for cryptocurrency is ADX can reach very extreme and remain there for quite a while. RSI and money flow can reach very deeply overbought and remain so for while price moves a considerable distance. So I can add for cryptocurrencies, I'll be looking for bearish candlestick reversal patterns and a complete Elliott Wave count. I have to rely heavily on Elliott Wave counts for cryptocurrencies because of the tendency of their trends to get very extreme and end with huge strength. Because currently ADX tells us there's no clear trend, I'm reverting to a model of stochastics plus support and resistance, and I went over this in quite a lot of detail just a few days ago. Currently, stochastics reached oversold, price was near support, so I'd now expect an upward swing for stochastics to get higher to move toward overbought and price to get higher to reach resistance. And if they get there simultaneously, the upward swing may end there. Bitcoin technicals quickly, price is moving higher again today, so far with an increase in range beyond the previous session, but not beyond the previous strong upward session. A little bit of an increase in volume today beyond yesterday, and the session is incomplete. Looks like price is continuing higher to reach resistance. Let's see how it behaves when it gets up to this resistance zone, 71,500 to 73,100. Price has been in this big rectangle pattern for several weeks now. It's in the context of an upward trend, and so the probability of an upward breakout is 2/3. The probability of a downward breakout is 1/3. So on the balance of odds tells us we're most likely to see an upward breakout from this pattern when it's finally complete. A little bit of an increase in volume today beyond yesterday, but overall, as price continues sideways in the rectangle, volume does still decline, but for the very short term, a little bit of a return of bullish movement with push from volume. ADX is declining, there's no clear trend, so I'll revert to the model of stochastics plus support and resistance. The previous upward trend reached very extreme when ADX has a positive slope and is above 15. It tells us the market is trending. When the market is trending, I am using a model of ADX plus RSI plus money flow. With ADX telling us the previous upward trend reached very extreme, RSI reached deeply overbought. Remember, RSI is bound from 0 to 100, so here it's about 90, really deeply overbought, and then exhibited bearish divergence at the high. It doesn't always do that. When it does do that, you can have a little bit more information that the trend is likely to be interrupted or to end, depending on where your Elliott Wave count is. Money flow also reached very deeply overbought and exhibited bearish divergence at the all-time high, so it's unsurprising we got a consolidation to relieve those extreme conditions. RSI and money flow are both back in neutral territory, and ADX has pulled itself all the way down from very extreme. It's now at a much lower level, ready to set up for the next trend. With no clear trend, the model of stochastics plus support and resistance would expect stochastics to continue higher until properly overbought and price to continue higher to resistance. When they are simultaneously overbought and at resistance, the upward swing may end, but price has got a little way to go to reach resistance, and stochastics is not fully overbought, it's just starting to enter overbought. For XRP, the Elliott Wave count remains the same with the new data, still expecting an intermediate degree second wave correction is complete, and a third wave at intermediate, primary and cycle degree is in its very early stages. Within that, I'm going to label minor wave 1 within intermediate wave 3 incomplete. When minor wave 1 is complete, minor wave 2 may not move beyond the start of 1 below 0.4309. XRP is consolidating still with resistance 54.55 cents and support 49. Looks like we're getting an upward swing now toward resistance. Let's see how price behaves when it gets there. It has broken above resistance in that area and quickly returned below, so I'm going to use a 3-day away rule. I'm going to wait for a close above resistance at 55 cents on an upward session with push from volume, and then wait until it's moved away for 3 days before I really have confidence that we've got a break above resistance here. 3-day away rule might seem a lot for a lot of people, but I've got a little bit more patience with these markets, and it's a pretty normal approach to risk management and technical analysis. If your breakouts have been false, and one way to filter out false breakouts is to use a 3-day away rule. For XRP, with this new data, the volume profile isn't so clear. Most recent upward session had some push from volume, but downward sessions have been the strongest, so for this data the volume profile for XRP is bearish. On balance, volume has a pretty weak range. The resistance and support lines have quite a strong slope, but I will still continue to watch it for a breakout. ADX is declining, indicating no clear trend, and the model of stochastics plus support and resistance would expect a continuation of an upward swing for stochastics to get closer to overbought and price to reach resistance, and we'll see how price behaves if and when it gets there. One of the advantages of using bar chart data is it's updated for me. I don't have to go and import data manually from Yahoo Finance because Crypto Compared didn't have Solana, so I won't be doing the mistake I had yesterday and just forgetting to import the data. Price is moving higher for the main Elliott Wave count for Solana. This is absolutely allowed for. Intermediate Wave B could continue higher. It cannot move beyond the start of A above 209.69606. A new high above that amount, above that price point by any amount at any time frame would invalidate this main Elliott Wave count and add confidence to this alternate. This alternate considers the correction was complete down here as a double combination. I've been over the problems with this wave count and I went over it in yesterday's video. So if you want to see why I've considered this an alternate, you'll have to see yesterday's video. I just don't want to keep repeating myself. Two targets, 936 is where primary 5 would reach 4.158, the length of 3. Second target, 2887 is where cycle 3 would reach 11.09, the length of cycle wave 1. Technicals for Solana moving higher. Look for next resistance pretty close here, about 168. If it can break through that, next resistance about 210. Look for support now about 159. This is an upward session which is closing. Well, it hasn't closed yet, but it looks like it is going to close above what was previous resistance at 159, and it's going to do it with an increase in volume. If it does close above 159, this is classic, a technical upward breakout with support from volume, so we can have confidence in it. Well, price has just broken above that resistance, now support, and nearing next resistance. On balance volume is at resistance. If we do see the current session close green, then on balance volume will give us a bullish signal, and that bullish signal will be quite a reasonable bullish signal. This line is somewhat long held, and it's got 4 tests. I count 1, 2, there's 2 in here, 3 and 4. And so that gives it reasonable technical significance. It's also got a really shallow slope. ADX is declining, the DX lines are crossing over. ADX is telling us there's no clear trend, but the cross of the DX lines tell us there is a potential change from down to up. The positive DX line is now above the negative DX line. With no clear trend, the model of stochastics plus support and resistance will expect stochastics to continue a little bit higher until properly overbought, so price may continue a little bit higher to resistance, and then the upward swing may end there unless ADX turns around and tells us there's a trend. ATR has been overall declining for the last few sessions, starting to show a little increase. That's it from me today with your update, and I hope you're all having a lovely day.